I am a couple of zeros short on your invoice. There has been an administration fee, and we will be re-invoicing you.
And this is outright corruption at this point because a lot of their reports are meaningless.
So, guys, we're talking about the Bureau of Meteorology's new website has cost the Australian taxpayers $96 million. $96 million for a website. Let that sink in. Let's just pause for effect for a second. Now, I have to say my piece because you know where I'm going with this.
Yep. Yeah,
being in this industry.
You want a pay rise. That's where you're going. You're going to turn around to me and say that you've underquoted and you're going to now go from, you're now going to go for like 20 times more. I get it. I
was about to say I am a couple of zeros short on your invoice. There has been an administration fee, and we will be re-invoicing you the extra $90 million.
You will forever be a little bit short on that invoice, I regret to tell you.
Okay, so first things first, I look at this as someone who works in the industry, and I don't pretend to know exactly what the brief was, right? Like none of us know. It was a redesign. And obviously with government stuff, there's layers of security and extra bits and pieces that are required. I understand all that. I would have said a couple of mil would have got you pretty close. Now, as it always is with the government, over budget, over time, too many fingers in the pie, let's add an extra million. Let's say conservatively, $3 or $4 million could have got you a state-of-the-art, top-of-the-range website. I cannot, in good conscience, fathom or even like create some kind of bizarre world where $96 million is justified for a website. So there's two things. I'm just going to rant because I had this prepared because I'm so worked up by this. So the thing about this website is we're all touching on it because a couple of months ago the farmers were outraged because of the radar, and rightfully so. However, this overspend and over budget is not an outlier. This is the norm with Australian governments. This is what we've come to know. Particularly in Victoria with our Labor government, but now with the Albanese government. So this isn't surprising. This is what happens with these large bureaucracies, and the failure is never punished. So we've had talk now that the person who has the portfolio that manages this is saying to the boss of the bomb, hey, we need you to go and have a look. Like, that's not accountability. That's just people going, oh, shit, we're going to be grilled over this. We better get some like slick looking PR statement that we can bring to the table. And so the problem is this kind of over expenditure is actually rewarded because the government doesn't like solving its problems. If they solve the problem and they came under budget, they lose next year's budget. So there's no incentive for them to deliver things on time. And so this bureaucracy is being rewarded for their incompetence because that's the justification for more money, more staff, more projects, more oversight, and more consultants. And there's nothing the Labor government loves more than some Collins Street consultants. I mean, I'm jumping over to a quick point. We saw recently Deloitte, their favorite creme de la creme consultancy firm, who charged them $500,000 for a report. And they produced a AI slop piece with fake references. And only because a really astute academic who was paying attention picked it up. No one else thought to check the references. And so I heard that story because I covered that for something I was doing with AI. And I thought to myself, all these different checks, all these different people who would have had to sign off on that report before it even got into the hands of the government, and then all the people in the government who would have read that report, no one anywhere thought to just check to make sure it's okay. So no one checks their homework now. And so there is a guy, you would know this better than I do, but Parkinson, right? And he observed this decades ago. He said, the bureaucracy expands according to the internal logic, not according to actual need. And that's what we're watching. This system is feeding itself whilst it's delivering nothing. And the justification is that we needed a new website, it needed extra security, and you put it all together in this pretty PR package, and then the general public goes, sounds legit. I don't know. I don't work for the government. And so, when you look at this, I was going to bring up a story today before this came out, but there is a French philosopher, and I'm going to butcher this name. I'm going to try and get it out. It is Alexis Tocqueville. Do you know him? It's French. I can't.
Alexis de Tocqueville.
De Tocqueville? Yeah, sure.
Alexis de Tocqueville, very well-known French philosopher and author, probably best known for his piece, his very large and very hard-to-read book on democracy in America. Yes, I think I know who you're talking about.
Let me try this. Alexis de Tocqueville. Did I do it?
Sorry, I needed more. This is more of like a puking kind of sound to come out with that. Yeah, exactly.
I have done nothing but read French philosophers for like the last 18 months, and I cannot say. So do not expect me.
Alexis de Tocqueville will be just fine. Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's the Aussie version. All right. So he has a concept, and you can probably explain this better than me, but he has a concept called soft despotism, right? And that is what this is a symptom of. So what happens is we have this suffocating paternalism where the system is convincing us to not expect anything better. And then you have this general layer of dust of apathy just settling all over Australians. Oh, this is the norm. This is just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't fix this. And so that apathy means that these kind of massive failures become normalized. And we see that in Victoria with the big build, with the level crossing removal, with the, the Metro Tunnel, the Westgate Tunnel.
Westgate Tunnel. Look at Snowy Hydro. That's not Victoria, but still.
This is not an exception. This is the norm in Australia now. Yeah. And because it's the norm, everyone just expects it.
Can I pull a couple of threads together? Because what Alexis Tocqueville was observing there with that kind of, the dust settling, the malaise that sets in, it's been described a few different ways by different philosophers. And I want to bounce through a few of them just to help, because different people think in different ways. This is a form of the tragedy of the commons, where once everyone's, we're going to have this huge bureaucracy and they're all going to look after this thing. Well, that means that no one's going to look after this thing. There isn't any sort of radical ownership where there is a person whose name and face and ass is on the line. Everyone's trying to be a part of this melee so that they can sidestep if heads are going to roll, they can make sure it's not theirs. Yeah. They need a swamp to swim in. We talk about the swamp. Trump talked about draining the swamp. What is the swamp? The swamp isn't just the bureaucrats. In fact, I would say isn't just the politicians, excuse me. I would say the politicians are the swamp creatures. They are the monsters that move through the swamp. The swamp itself is an entirely separate thing. The swamp is made up of the bureaucrats and especially the consultants. The swamp is the army of people that have learned that they can make more money sucking up to government than they can actually doing an honest day's work. Now, Jorthax makes an interesting point here. He says, just think, the contractor had to win a tender before charging 90 million odd. Which company was it, and how did they get the gig? The whole tendering process for government jobs it's not going to say it's the foundation. Until we fix that, we can't fix the problem. So there's a couple of things here where tenders are incredibly involved things. They require an enormous amount of work just to do a tender. And so therefore, what's happened is, in order to ensure that there's competition, whenever the government puts something out to tender, they have to get at least 3 tenders, right? And sometimes it's even more than that, depending on the project. But a tender is a phenomenally labor-intensive thing. So what they actually had to do was start paying for tenders, because companies started complaining and saying, well, listen, we have to do at least 3 tenders for every job we win. And if we're unlucky, we go on a bad streak, well, we might have to do 10 or 20 tenders and pay money for all those tenders. And by then we're bankrupt and we're no longer in business and we can't keep going. So they convinced the government to start paying for tenders. But as soon as you're dealing with government, sorry, to finish that point. So now we have companies. There are the companies that get the work, and then there are the small consulting firms that make money by submitting tenders. There is an entire industry now to be the second and third company that submits the tender. You get paid by the government to submit the tender. They make sure that they take a nice slice off the top and pocket a good chunk of cash just out of what they get paid to do the tender. There's no real chance of them winning. They know that. The bureaucrats know that. The politicians know that. Everyone knows that. They're just paying money so that they can tick the box and say, yes, we've got the correct number of tenders. So that's layer number one. Layer number two is that everyone knows that government are incredibly difficult to deal with. And everything, all your timelines blow out. Scope creep is a massive problem. And so you have to load the margins, but you also know that you can load the margins, right? You know that you can just add zeros basically. However, you still have to win the tender. So how do you add zeros but also win the tender at the same time? Well, you make sure that there's going to be cost overruns later. You give them a good price up front, but you build into the contract. This contract assumes da, 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 and a bunch of things that you know are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? They're not actually going wrong. You knew from the start that was going to happen, but you build it into the contract that this is the price for this. It's like selling a car and saying, "Oh, sorry, you wanted upholstery on the seats and rubber on the tires and brake lines. Goodness, okay, wow. Look, now we're going to have to go back and do a change of scope and blah blah." Like they know, of course they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but this is how it works now. You don't get the tender if you give an honest price up front because it's too high. So the only way you get the tender is by being one of these sleazy, slimy creatures that plays these sorts of, in my opinion, very corrupt games.
Yeah.
Then at the final stage, you then get all of your consultants that come in on the back of that. And they love projects going wrong, because when do you need a consultant? When everything's going well, or when everything goes ass up? You need a consultant when everything goes ass up. They need to get out there and do public consultations. They need to be able to do a what do they call it? A holistic review of the project and come back with recommendations about how the due diligence process can be improved. And this all comes with zeros. And this is outright corruption at this point, because a lot of their reports are meaningless.
Well, like a true masochist, you are back again to watch another segment of the Oddcast. So at this point, you should probably be subscribing and telling every single person in your life about the Oddcast, because let's be honest, we've got a lot of work to do and we need to get together and suffer through this torture, because there's nothing like fighting against our government with some good mates by your side. So much like a Bunnings sausage, we are going to become a staple in your life, and we would very much appreciate that you go and support us via the Buy Us a Coffee button or buy some sweet merch. Also very appreciated. And join us next week. We'd appreciate it.